So now that we know kind of the two things we're going to be discussing and why I think this is an important topic, let's go into talking about the advantages and disadvantages of using a cash offer versus a financed offer. So with the cash offer, some of the advantages are that your offer might appear more attractive to the seller because you're more likely to have less contingencies. You could also potentially purchase the property at a lower price. Because you're coming in cash, you're going to have lower closing costs with the title company. And because you supposedly should have the cash on you, you don't have to have so many days to close. You can close in a quicker time frame, especially if you are purchasing on an off-market deal or from a wholesaler. They're going to expect you to be coming in cash. You'll also have increased cash flow because you won't have any debt service to satisfy, and you'll have instant equity. All the cash that you have on hand is getting repositioned into an asset. So you'll have that much equity in your property. An advantage to having or submitting a financed offer is, well, you have that safety net, what I like to think of it as, for the underwriting from the bank. So the bank's not going to want you to get into a terrible deal. And it's good to have a second pair of eyes. And even though maybe, based on their underwriting, it might be an okay deal to you, they're just going to make sure that the debt service can be satisfied. So one of the advantages is they're going to have your back and make sure that you're not getting into a horrible, terrible deal. Another thing is that you're going to have less capital upfront because you're just putting a down payment on the purchase price. You're not coming up with everything compared to an all cash offer. Another one is that you have the ability to lock in rates. So although rates are on the rise, they are still relatively low compared to, many, many years ago. So right now, debt is relatively cheap. So you can take advantage of that now by putting out a financed offer. You'll also have the ability to write off the mortgage interest, which effectively lowers your taxable income and allows you to keep more money in your pocket. So those are just some of the advantages of coming in financed. Let's take a look at some of the disadvantages of a cash offer and financed offer. So with cash offer, like I said, you're not going to be able to take advantage of those mortgage related tax benefits because there's no mortgage to pay. Your capital does become illiquid. It's no longer, it's parked in an asset. You don't have access to it like you would with a stock market account or a cryptocurrency account. So if an emergency arises, you can't just go and get your money out. The other one, so depending on your risk tolerance, you'll probably have less contingencies to fall back on, especially when you're coming in cash. Most sellers will probably expect you to have less contingencies. And that just comes with the nature of coming in cash. And lastly, the stress with raising private money. So I'd mentioned, in my situation, I had to leverage raising private money, and I'll actually go a little bit deeper into that shortly. But if you don't have the money yourself in your account, you will incur some stress with raising private money if you're putting out cash offers. Okay. With financed offers, some of the disadvantages, because the bank is underwriting, and I know I mentioned that was an advantage, it can also be a disadvantage because your offer may appear less attractive because you have a longer time period to close. Most banks that I've been seeing want around 30 to 45 days. So just think about how that will look from a seller's perspective, right? The other one is the banks are going to have their contingencies. They want to have multiple ways to back out of the deal. So they're going to have more things that you're going to have to, or the deal that's going to have to qualify for. So that might also make your offer less attractive to sellers. You're going to have to provide more paperwork. So when you're coming in with a traditional lender using conventional products, they're going to be looking at your personal finances, looking at your debt to income ratio and your credit score. So if your overall financial health is not the best or ideal, finance offer might not work out for you, at least on the conventional side. There's also higher closing costs and lender fees involved. So not only are you coming up with a down payment, you also have to consider the fees like for the appraisal and the other fees that the lenders throw in there to service the mortgage. And because you are making payments, right, you owe money to the bank who's holding the note. You are at risk of foreclosure if you fail to make those payments. So those are some things to consider, some disadvantages to consider when you're coming in financed.